Creating a mobile app takes a lot of time, especially if you are going to be building for Android and iOS. It takes a lot of money as well because you need to have a team of Android developers and a team of iOS developers to build the app. With technologies such as React Native and Flutter, you can have one team write one code base and then deploy to both Android and iOS. These frameworks are called cross-platform mobile app frameworks, meaning you write your code once and then you deploy to both platforms. So not only are you able to deploy to iOS and Android, you can actually you can actually build an Android TV app, iOS watch app, and other platforms out there. So in this video, we are going to be building this user interface using React Native. This is where I got the design from on Instagram. This is the account that posted the design, and in this video we're going to be building this first screen, and then maybe in a later video we'll build the second screen. So when using React Native, you have to think in components. Everything has to be a component. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you've got this entire screen here, and then you've got this section, which is, we'll just call this the greeter, and it has the name of the user as well as the profile picture. So that means this component will need to pass props to it, a user prop for example, that has the name and the URL to the picture. Then we've got this component here. So in React Native, you do have components that are pre-built for you. For example, a text input, but those are just basic components. You've got a text component that you use for displaying text. But we can build our own custom components. For example, this button here. We can build this button from scratch. Okay? And then once we build this button, we need to make sure that it is reusable. For example, if I have a component called custom button and it's this one here, and I want to change the color to green, I need to be able to pass a prop color, and the button needs to read that prop and then set its background to whatever color I pass. I need to be able to pass the text that I want the button to show. And then when I click on the button, I should get feedback that this button has been pressed. Okay, yep. So we'll build this component as well. We'll just call it custom text input. Then we have this section now. We'll use a flat list here. A flat list is like a recycler view. If you've built Android apps before using XML, you know what a recycler view is. Basically, it's a component that you give it data and then it will just display the data in a list format, like in a scrollable format. Yep. So here's another example of a recycler view. Of a flat list, but this one is vertical, this one is horizontal. Yeah, and then coming to this component here, this one component has components inside. Okay, it's we're gonna call it a transaction component, and then inside of the transaction component we're gonna have a button component. This is a separate component over here. This I won't create a separate component for this, but we'll see. We will see. Okay, so what are we gonna be using? First of all, what you need to do is you need to go to expo.dev. We're gonna be using React Native with Expo. Not this Expo. React Native. Okay, you need to go to React Native .dev, and then like I said, we will be using Expo, so you will need to go through these steps here. You need to have Android Studio if you'll be running your app on an Android device, or if you are on Windows, because you won't be able to run a simulator unless you have an iOS device. Then you can scan the QR code that Expo will provide, and then you can run your the app on your physical device. Just make sure that your phone and your PC are connected to the same network. Okay, once you've set up React Native, the whatever you need to set up for Android Studio, then we need to, sorry, I'm looking for Expo here. Okay, so you need to come here and click on Expo CLI Quick Start, not here. So we were looking at this tab. This is a different CLI, but we want to use Expo. The reason why we want to use Expo is so when you're using React Native CLI, like you might need to configure some stuff within the native project. What I mean is, like, if for example, if I install a package, that package might need me maybe to go to the manifest file in Android and do some things, or go to the plist file in iOS and configure some stuff. So yeah, with Expo, a lot of that is avoided. So if you're using npm, just go ahead and run this command. This will install Expo globally. And if you want to use yarn, just go ahead and run this. Once you're done, we need to now create a project. So I'm going to copy this command here, and gonna open a directory where I'm gonna create my project, which is this one. So we need to run expo init and then the name of your project. We're just gonna call this I don't know, transactions. We're gonna call the project transactions. Okay, then hit enter. So now we need to select the template that you want to use. We'll go with blank for now, but I suggest that when you're creating a fully fledged project, a project that you want to deploy, just go for tabs, because that will come with the React Native navigation, but we will install that in the next video in our project. But for now, just go with blank, and this, the first option, will select it. We'll be using JavaScript. This one will use TypeScript, so we'll just go with JavaScript, and then let's wait for the template to finish downloading. Cool, so that's done. So go ahead and open this in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the structure. So I'm in the wrong directory. Let me just close VS Code. First, you want to cd into transactions, and then you want to open the project properly. Cool, so this is what you get out of the box from Expo. You get your assets. This is where you put your images, your fonts, and yeah, just basically your assets. And then you've got the standard Node modules that come with Node applications. Then this is where everything starts up. This is app.js. This is where you write your code, you import whatever pages that you want to show in your screen. Yeah, this is just configurations of your app. Then you've got the bubble config. Then you've got a list of your packages, because we'll use yarn. This is like a snapshot of our packages. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a source folder. This is where my source code will live. Okay, so this is where like my source code will live, and then I need another one called screens inside of source screens. Screens is self-explanatory. Then I need another one called components. So in here we will have shared components, meaning that if a component is here, just know that it is used in more than one screen. But each screen will have a components folder as well. That means those components will only be used within that screen. Okay, so let me create a folder. We'll call this home screen. And then within home screen, we need another folder called components. Like I said, these components that will be in here will be components that are only used by home screen. Okay, and I need to create a file called styles.js inside of home screen, and I need to create another. Let me create another screen here so that the structure won't be as confusing as it is. I'll just call this splash screen. Okay, so now you see we've got home screen. Inside of home screen we've got components, then we have styles. Now in here I want to also create an index.js file. This is the actual screen. Okay, so you'll see why I'm calling it index.js in a moment. So I'm going to create a React Native functional component, and I'm going to call it home screen. Go ahead and save that. And in here we need to import home screen because this is the screen that we want to show first. Remember I said React Native runs this file, so whatever is here will be shown first. Okay, so let's import home screen. Inside of source, and then screens, and then home screen. Notice I don't have to go index like this, because we just need to reference the folder, and once you get into this folder, by default we're going to select index, so that's why I've got index here. Okay, so let me just go ahead and run the app before we change anything here. So you go to your terminal. You can do it from here as well. It's fine. You can do it from here, but I like to use the integrated terminal. So you're gonna go yarn start. Okay, so it's gonna start the server, and then I'm just gonna open my device. Make sure my device is ready over here. This is just a, what do you call this, a launcher that I'm using, so it's not React Native related. Okay, so it's just saying this port is in use, and I'm just going to use a different port. It's going to go ahead and open Metro server, and let's just wait for a couple of seconds. Okay, so this is the QR code I was talking about. If you have an iOS device and you want to run the app physically, download the Expo Go app, open your camera and just point it to this QR code. A little pop-up will show up, prompting you to open Expo Go, and then once you do that, the app will build on your device. So in my case, I've got my Android phone plugged in, as you saw. And if I press A here, see it says press A, open Android. If I press A, it'll either look for an emulator or a physical device that's plugged in. In our case, we've got a physical device, so it is now loading. Okay, let me just make sure that I'm connected to the same Wi-Fi. One sec. Okay, looks like it's bundling now. I just had to switch to the same Wi-Fi that this PC is connected to. So if you come across these problems, just make sure that you close the app entirely on your mobile device. Close Expo Go, and then press A again in here, and then it should work. So we're just waiting for JavaScript to bundle, and then so what's happening here? JavaScript is converting to native code. Then we should be able to see this in our screen in a few seconds from now. And the good thing about React Native is whenever we make changes here, immediately when you press save, it's super fast. It will reload very, very quickly. And I feel like this is what we are missing in truly native. I don't want to say truly native, but when you're building for Android in Android Studio or for iOS in Xcode. Okay, so you see now we are seeing the screen here. If I make some changes and say hello world, if I can spell it correctly, press save, and we see hello world here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to, instead of displaying this text, I want to just show the home screen. Okay, home screen, save. Now we see home screen. This text comes from here, and the reason why it's in the center is because we've got this style in attached to this view. So whatever is inside of this view will be centered. Okay, yep. So let us remove, just gonna remove this view, and we'll just use a fragment over here. Press save, and yep, now we have home screen right at the top there. Okay, so let's have a look at what we are building again. So we need to create this header. Remember, we said this component is going to be used within the home screen only. So you know what that means. It means we're going to create the component within this components folder, within the components that are under the home screen folder. Okay, so gonna go ahead and create it here, and I'm gonna call it greeter.js, and I'm gonna use this extension again, React Native functional component, and you need to export it with stars. And so components needs to have, the name should be capitalized. I mean, the first letter should be capitalized. So now we've created this component. Let's go ahead and use it in the home screen. Come to index. Now we need to import it. Import greeter from go into components, and then we import greeter. So instead of showing home screen, now let's just display greeter. Okay, save that. Come here. Now we should see greeter over here. Right, so at least now we have some progress. Now we need to come into greeter, and we need to pass props. So what is greeter expecting? So we're expecting a user prop from greeter, and remember this will come from the home screen, and we know that the user will have a name property and an image URL property. Because we're using JavaScript, we can't create a type for user, but if we were using TypeScript, we would attach that type to this object here, to this user object, and then we'd be forced to pass those properties. Okay, so that's why TypeScript is great for creating production apps. Okay, so we've got this view here, which is like the container, and I'm gonna create a style for it, and I'm gonna call it container. So this is like convention. The outer layer, the outermost layer of a component is usually called a container. And this container, I want to make sure that the flex is row, because if you look at this, the entire view, the components within are in a row. We've got this component over here, then we've got this over here. So the outermost part is the flex direction is a row. Okay, so create a container, and flex direction should be row, and then I want to justify content space between. So what this will do is it'll look at the first component, put it at the beginning, and then the last component will be right at the end. Okay, so maybe if we had 3 components, we'd have this component over here, the second component over here, and then the last component right at the end. But there's gotta be space between, equal space in between. Okay, so that's what this does. Okay, so yeah, we're done with the container. So what we need now is another view that will contain the greeting. So this view, then we need an image. Okay, so yeah, let me just go ahead and create that view, and let me just call it styles.greeting. Do we need? No, we'll see if we do need that. But this is the first component within this container, and if we create another component, it's gonna go right at the end. This one will go right at the end because this flex is row, and then the justify content is set to space between. So we need to import this component from React Native, and the source will come from the user object. So we say URI user.image. I think I'm gonna call it img. We will create the user object in a bit, but just wanna be done with this component for now. Okay, then we need 2 text components, one that says hello name, and then another one that says welcome to your wallet. So we need this text component, and it'll say hello user.name. Then we need another one that says welcome back to your wallet. Okay, let me just go ahead and confirm. Yeah, hello name, welcome back to your wallet, with an exclamation mark. Forgot that. All right, so now we need to style the image. So by default, when you display an image in React Native, if you don't give it a width and a height, it will not show. Okay, so I'm gonna attach a style, and I'm just gonna call this image. Then I'm gonna come here. Yep. And usually with components, with small components, I don't separate the style like I did here. So these styles are for the home screen. So these styles will be used within the index.js file here. But for this component, unless it's gonna get really big, but yeah, it's a small component. We can get away with this. Okay, so we've got the image, so we need to set the width. I'm gonna use 45, and then the height of 45 as well. Border radius of 10, and then the border width of 1, and then border color. I'm gonna use white. Okay, so let me show you why we're doing this. So if you look closely at this image, we've got a border radius, okay, and then we've got like a small border that is white. So yeah, I think the width is 1 as well. And yeah, so I think we are done with this component. What we need to do now is we need to pass the user prop from the home screen, just to make sure that this doesn't break. So if we save now, it'll break because we're not passing the user prop. So yeah, this is the danger of using JavaScript in when building React Native apps. Yeah, I just need to make sure that you pass your data, otherwise things will start breaking. Okay, with TypeScript you could have easily avoided this, but yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and pass this user object now. So this is the name, Siviwe. Remember I said I'm gonna call it img. If you come here, this is my image. We are referencing img over here. So if I hit save now, this error should go away, and we should see this object over this showing. Okay, don't worry about this for now. We're gonna fix this. This will come down. But yeah, we see hello Siviwe, we see welcome back to your wallet, and we see our profile picture. And you see that the space is, we've got space between applied as well. Okay, so I am going to create another folder. Over here, I'm going to call it constants new folder. And this is where we store data that is not changing, like objects that are not changing, things like configurations, mock data, and yeah, those kinds of objects. So gonna create a file called colors.js, and I'm gonna bring in some code. Okay, so this is our background color, and this is our orange, and then we're exporting colors. And I wanna create another file called I'm gonna call this values.js. Come in here, paste this. So we've got, I've got horizontal padding set to 25. You know, these are values that if I'm using this throughout the entire app, and I'm like, you know, there's too much padding in the sides, I'll just come here into this one file, and change this number, and it will reflect throughout the entire app. So that's why this is very important that you do it this way. Then we've got a style for a heading. The font size will be 20. The weights will be bold. Yeah, you see, you like, this is like straightforward. Save this, and let me create another one for data. This is mock data.js. Okay. And I will paste the link to the code to the repo so that you can also copy these files as well as these assets as well. Okay, so we've got categories, we've got these categories, and then we've got transactions. These are the transactions that we have. If you go back here, you see we've got categories, and then we've got transactions as well. So we'll use that data to create this UI here. Let's go ahead and save. And as you noticed, we've got these images here. And I do have those images. I will then create a folder called images, because they are under images, under assets, create images here. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy those images and then paste them in here. So if you need them as well, make sure you come to this repo and then copy the images. Alrighty, so I've copied the images over to this project. So now we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so now we saw that this is not looking very good. First of all, the styles are not okay. This needs to be gray and a bit smaller. This needs to be H1. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to come to this component, to the greeter component, and we need to apply the styles appropriately. Okay, go to screens, home screen, components, greeter. Remember, I showed you all that we've got a style for H1 in the values. That means we need to import this file over here. Okay, let's go ahead and import values from constants, and then values. Okay, so now here we need to apply this style. It's not coming from styles, but it's coming from values.h1 style. Okay, then this one coming from values dot what do you call this, p style. Yeah, I think we'll use p style. And if we go ahead and save, we see that now the styles have been applied. Yeah, everything is starting to come together now. Okay, now we need to fix how it looks in the home screen. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna import something called safe area view, and copy that, paste it here. So the safe area view is the parts of the screen that is not hidden. You know, in iOS you've got the notch, and part of the screen is hidden beneath the notch. Okay, so this component makes sure that whatever is inside is not hidden. Like in our case, our component is right under the status bar. Okay, so this will prevent that. Okay, I'm just gonna give it a style of container, styles.container. Remember, this is convention. The outermost is the outermost component usually gets the container style. Now if you notice here, we don't have a styles object because we've got this over here. So we need to create our styles over here. So React, from React, React native, let me just go ahead and copy and paste whatever we need to import. Okay, so we need to import style sheets from React Native. This is what we use to create our style sheets, okay? We need to import values. You'll see why we're going to use that in a while. And also we need to import colors, okay? Most importantly, make sure that you export your export default styles, okay? We haven't created styles yet, but this is how we create it. So we use style sheets. Dot create, then container. Okay, so the container, the flex will be flex 1, which means it will take up the entire screen. Let me think about that. Do we need it to take up the entire screen? Okay, let me leave it as it is. Then we want to apply padding top. Now we're going to use values dot vertical padding, and I want to add some more padding over there, maybe 40. Then we need to set the background color now. Background color, now we're using colors dot background, okay? So if we in future we decide that no, the background color should be blue, we'll just go into values and into colors, and then just change it over here, and it will reflect everywhere in the app. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that, and let us save this file. Then we need to import it, otherwise our app will throw an error. We need to import our style sheet. From styles. Okay, and we save. Now let's go ahead and look. Now it looks much better. Now we need to apply some padding on the sides, okay, to bring everything, to make it look nicer, because everything is just stuck on the sides for now. Okay, to do that we need so there's this over here. If I go to values, okay, we don't have that. Okay, so let's go to we'll go to styles and create another style called horizontal. This, okay, let's call it horizontal padding view. Horizontal. All right, and padding horizontal. Padding horizontal is going to be values dot horizontal padding. Okay, I'm going to copy this. Let me just do this for simplicity, because yep, let me just and then I'll just close this. Okay, let's go back to index, and let's create a view, and then let's put this greeter inside that view. Okay, and then I wanna add some padding. Apply style, call it horizontal padding. So whatever is inside of this view this view will have padding on the sides, horizontal. Okay, and then whatever is in here will be like squished within. You'll see what I mean. Let me just save. You see what I mean? So yeah, if I go to styles again and maybe adjust this, add 40 to the original padding, I mean -10 to the original padding. No, it's in values. Horizontal padding is 25 for now. If I change it to 20, you see how it reflects. Okay, let's keep it at 25 for now. Yep, so it looks very good. Now we need to work on this component over here. I feel like I've wasted so much time speaking. So let's go ahead and work on this component real quick. Okay. It's gonna be in the shared components file. I'm gonna call new file and I'm gonna call it custom input. Let me just go ahead and create another one called spacer because we'll use this in a sec. And we'll create a custom button. Okay. So now let's work on the custom input. React Native functional custom input. So I'm using an extension for quickly generating this piece of code here. It's called ES7 React Native extensions. Yeah, just go ahead and search it, and then yeah, you can use that. So let's bring in this custom input into our home screen under index. Import custom input from components custom input. Okay. Yep, let's also import spacer. And we're going to use spacer, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you want to create some space between components, we'll just put this component in, give it a height or a width, and that will create some space. Okay, so beneath the greeter, properly format this. Okay, so beneath the greeter, we're gonna use the spacer, and we wanna create some height. Okay, so I'm gonna pass a prop called height. Height is just how you spell height. Okay, and we'll see. Use 20, so it'll break because we haven't created spacer yet. Where's spacer? React Native functional. We need to export spacer, and it takes a property called width, by default it's 0, and it also takes a property called height, which we just passed. By default it's 0. So if you just use spacer and don't pass anything, it'll just there's not going to be any space. And then its function is just simply creating some space. Okay, so we don't even need the style sheet to be honest, but yeah, we don't need that. We'll just create this. We'll just say width. It's gonna be width, and then height is gonna be height. Don't need that, and we don't need these as well. Save. Now the error is gone. Go back to the home screen. Let me show you what I mean by this. Okay, so let me pass 0 over here, and then have a text. Save. You see we've got test here. If I pass 10, there's going to be some space, so I can pass whatever number I want, and you see we get some space. All right, cool. So now we need to work on the custom input. Okay, so the custom inputs will take a placeholder, and let's say search. Remember, this needs to be reusable. Okay, so we can't go ahead and hard code search within the custom inputs component itself, because that means that this component will only be used for searching. So that's why we need to pass this placeholder as a prop. Then it needs to take an icon. All right, and in our case we're going to be using icons. If you look here, we've got an icon and a placeholder. Okay, so because this needs to be reusable, we don't need to be stuck with this search icon. We can pass whatever icon we want, and I'll show you that just in a sec. And the name of the icon, what is it? It's called search dash outline, and I'll show you where I got that from. If you go to our icons and look for the search icon. Why can't I spell? If you look at this one, the name is called search outline. You'll see how we're going to use this in a sec. Okay, all right, so now we've got this component, we've passed the placeholder and the name of the icon. Now let's go ahead and implement the custom input component over here. React Native, again I'm using this extension. Okay, remember we said we are passing a placeholder, we expect a placeholder, but by default I'm just gonna put in enter text, so that if a user does not pass any placeholder, then we'll see enter text. And again, and we're expecting an icon, so we won't be using any default icon name. Okay, again, if we were using TypeScript, we would enforce the user to pass mandatory props. Okay, so we'd have a type over here, so a user would be forced to pass the placeholder and the icon. All right, so I'm gonna import some stuff over here that I'm gonna use within this. So we'll use icons, icons. So Expo comes with a bunch of icons, man. Not only you can use any of these icons, right? You can use more than one icon, more than one pack. I'm just gonna stick with icons because that's what I'm familiar with. Yeah, coming from Ionic, I've really grown to love this icons pack. Alright, so this view now, I'm just gonna call styles dot, you guessed it, container, and then we need the icon now. Alright, so this is how we bring in the icon. We just use the same name that's here. This will just fetch the Ionicons packages because of this over here. Alright, so now the name, remember we passed the name here, search outline, and it's gonna come in here, icon, it's gonna be a prop, and then we're gonna pass it here. The size is gonna be 20, the color is gonna be gray. Alright, then we need a spacer, and this is the beauty of having everything as a component and reusable. We need a spacer for this space basically. Remember, previously we used it to create a space between this, to create the space basically. Now we want to create a horizontal space. So we're not gonna pass height, instead we're gonna pass width. That means height is gonna be 0 by default. Okay, now we need to create a text input, and this comes with React Native. This comes with just React Native. Alright, maybe I should show you how a text input looks like. Let me show you how it looks like. Gonna comment this out. Placeholder, and we need to bring it from React Native. If we save, this is what it looks like. Okay, it doesn't look really good, so we want to create our own custom one. Okay, so yeah, that's why we're doing what we're doing right now. Okay, all right, uncomment this. Let's before we save here, let's finish up our work over here. Now we need to bring in the styles. Okay, because of time, we're just gonna copy and paste the styles and then explain what's happening. All right, so we've got the container. This is the container. First of all, the width should be 100% of the parent. Okay, so it won't reach right to the end because we've got padding over here. So it will just be 100% of the parent. Then the height will be 45. Background color is white, just to make it visible. Remember, we've changed the background color of our home screen, so white will really pop out. And then flex direction should be row. It should be row because we've got the icon and the text input. You see, we've got the icon, the text inputs. This means that the icon will be on the left and the text input will be on the right of this component over here. That's flex direction. And then the items should be center. This means they'll be centered vertically within the container. And then the container must have a border radius of 15. And then the padding to the left, because we want the icon to not stick to the left. We've got a padding left of 15. And then we've got this input over here. We want to make sure that it takes up the entire width of the container, of the space that is allocated to it, as well as the entire height. And let me show. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. And if we save here, wait for it. Okay, text input, can't find variable text input. Where is it using it now? Oh, okay. We need to import text import in custom import. It's complaining that it doesn't know what this is. So we're not using text. Let's just use text import. Go ahead and save. Now we've got this beautiful reusable component. So I was talking about this here. Why do we do this? If I click here, the keyboard is showing because the input is taking the entire space over here. All right, but beginning from here, of course. Okay. If I remove this and save, it still looks the same. But if I click here, as you can see, it's not taking up the entire. Even if I click here, I'm clicking, nothing happens. I need to click here for the keyboard to show up. So that's why we need to make sure that it's taking the entire width and the entire height. All right, just like it's good UX for the user. If we now click here, it's showing. Okay, so this is reusable. We can change this, maybe let's say email. Let's see. Main outline. Sorry, let me just do this instead. And we need a spacer between them. If we save, now you see we've got it's reusable. All right, we can even extend it to allow it to accept a password as well. But as you can see, now we're using a different icon and a different placeholder. Yeah, so that's the reusability I was talking about. Now we need to what do we need? We need to create categories now. Okay. Do we have values here? We need to import values. Constants and values. All right. Then right under this, we need a spacer. With a height of, let's use 20 again. Then we need a text. Categories. And we're gonna give it a style of H2. It's defined in the values. H2. Let's go ahead and save that. Counts variable space. God. Save. Now we've got categories. Right. So now we need to work on data. We need to work on this now. So for this we're going to use a flat list. A flat list allows us to, you just give it data and then you can scroll the flat list to see the data. All right, so like, let me properly explain it. You give it data and then you give it a component to display that data, and then it will render the component as many times as there's data. Okay, but it does it in a very efficient way. Like I said, it works like a recycler view. So it basically it's like a virtual scroll, right? And then it's very flexible. It can be horizontal, it can be vertical, as you can see here. So we need to create this component first, and then we need to make sure that it is reusable. So we're going to have one component that's going to expect a background color, an image, and then the heading, and then the paragraph. Okay, so let's go ahead and build that now. First of all, what I want to do is create a, do we have a, okay, we need to create a category here, because within the home screen, because that component is going to be used within the home screen only. It's not going to be used anywhere else. Create a new file, category, alright, so we need touchable opacity. So touchable opacity is just touchable. Yeah, so when you press on something, you know, it should reflect, it should react to you pressing on it. So this helps with that. And then again, we need to import values. Constants, values. Alright, and then I also want to import dimensions, and I'll show you just now why we need dimensions. Dimensions from React Native. Now I want to get the width of the screen. Alright, const, so we're pulling out width from, okay, dimensions.get screen. So we're getting the screen from dimensions. React Native knows how to get the width of the screen, and then we're just pulling width from whatever comes back from here. And yep, we need to wrap everything in a touchable opacity. Let me save this and import it in the home screen so that while we're building, we actually see what we're building. Okay. Spacer, then let's import components category, and we can just use it like this. If we now save, now we see category, and if you click here, you see it's reacting to me clicking on it because of that touchable opacity that we used as the wrapper, as the parent. Now, like most actually like all of our okay, let me do this. So now we need a view that will be a container. This is how I like to do it in the case of if we have a touchable opacity, the container styles will just be in the next component after touchable opacity. So this will be the container of everything. So we give it a style container. And now because of time, I'm just gonna copy this style and paste it here, and then I'll explain everything. So now the width, I want it to take 33% of the screen. Okay, so this is where we use this width. This is why we needed dimensions. So we're taking the entire width, and then we just getting 33% of it, and then the heights will be 150, and then yeah, border radius of this, you know, margin right, because if we don't have this margin right, the cards will just stick to each other. So margin right will help us create this space here. Yeah, and then we need to align the items to the center, justify content to the center, so everything will be centered in the card. All right, yeah, so this is the actual card now. If we save, you won't be able to see it, but if I change the background color to red, for example, where is the border radius? Okay, we'll see. I wonder why it doesn't have. Okay, we'll see. Right, so now we've got these styles, but now remember we need to pass props over here. So we need to pass the category, as well as a function on press. What happens when you press on this? Okay, so when you press here, this function will get triggered, and then you'll see what's gonna happen. Right, so we right, so let me go ahead and explain here. So now we bring in the image from React Native, properly format this. Bringing in the image, we are setting the styles to, we haven't created it, we'll bring it just now, to image, and then the source will come from category.img. all right, and then over here we've got this text, which is like this big text, and the styles will come from it's going to be an H2 style, and then we want to add some additional styles as well. So this is how you do it. You put everything in a square bracket, and then you add your styles from wherever you want to import the styles from, and then if you want to add additional styles, this is how you do it. Yeah, same applies with the text that's below, which is this part, the white text. Yep, we did the same as well. Imported the styles, and then we just wanted to add some additional styles. Okay, and it's gonna come from category, the paragraph, the text. All right, so for the image style, on the width to be 45, the height to be 45 as well. Okay, so and then we need to the touchable opacity has this thing called on press. When you press it, this will trigger. Okay, so we just need to just gonna create an anonymous function over here, which will then call on press, and then this will pass the category. I'm just gonna pass category.heading. Alright, so let's have a look at what categories have. So we've got the IMG, correct, we've got the heading, we've got the paragraph, just a reminder, okay? Then we've got the background as well. So in our container, we need to set this background. Container. Yep, this is it. So we need to add square brackets over here as well, because we want to add some additional styles. Okay, then background color, this is going to come from category.background color. So I'm not going to save yet because this will break the app. We haven't passed the category yet, but I don't want to pass just a single category. I want to use a flat list that will generate this component over and over again for each category that we have. All right, so I'll show you how to do that just now. So this, okay, so we need to import the flat list from React Native. Right, and then I'll just paste the code over here and explain what everything is. Alright, so this is the flat list, and it also has props as well. So this means that it's going to be horizontal. By default it's vertical. And then data, categories. So we need to import categories from data. Okay, import, because in data we are exporting more than one thing. This is how we import stuff. Categories. Okay, IntelliSense, thank you very much. So we're importing categories from data, and we are passing categories over here. So it's important that data has IDs, because the flat list will use the ID to identify each component. All right, cool. All right, so do you want to show it? So when you scroll, do you want to show an indicator at the bottom where we are? No, we don't want to show that. And here's the key extractor. So we've got a list or an array of categories, and then each category inside is called an item. All right, so the key extractor is going to be the item.id, the item of each category. And then we want to render the component, and we are pulling the item from categories. This item is just one category, and we are now returning this component over here, category, and now we are passing category. Remember, this component is expecting a category, and within this category, we know that we've got an img, we've got the background color, we've got the heading, and then we've got the paragraph. It's right here, you see. So yeah, and then this is the on press that I was talking about. So whenever we press here, this will get triggered, and then we'll get the value like we passed it over here. Remember, we passed the value when you press, when you press this, we call this function called on. You can call this anything. You can call it x, and then just make sure when you come here, it's called x as well. All right, but I'm just gonna call it on press. All right, so when we press, we get the value, and then we're just gonna console.warn the value, which is the heading. So let me save this, and then let me save this file as well. So I knew some things would break. Okay, so within the category, we need to import image from React Native. Category, image, save. Now everything works. Cool, looks very, very cool. But if you look at the image over here, we don't have padding here. All right, we don't have padding, so that means we need to take out this this flat list. Should be outside of this view, because this view has this style over here. All right, so let me just do this. And I'm going to create another view over here. Put this here. Let's save and see what happens. Okay, now we don't have the padding, but we do need it over here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do within this view now, within this view, styles, let me just do this, let me just cheat. Padding left, do we have values over here? Yep, we do. Values dot horizontal padding. So I'm just applying the padding only on the left. If I save, now it looks good. So now we can scroll, and as you can see, each card is taking 33% of the screen. Okay, cool. So what are we left with now? We are over an hour. So I'm not gonna implement this because it's gonna take a lot of time. So now we need to work on transactions history. Cool. So I need to create another view. Where am I? Oh, I'm looking at something else. Yeah, I need to create another view that has the same styles as this, because transaction history has padding it has horizontal padding. Okay, so outside of this view, I'm gonna create another one. And you know what? We can break this into a separate view, into a separate component, like as well, and then just pass the category to it. But because of time, I'm not gonna do that. But this this definitely should be a separate component. Maybe a category list, or a category list, and then just bring that one component here, and then pass the categories to it, and then it don't know what to do. Okay, it don't know how to display the categories. Yep. So now we've got this view. We want to have the same styles as well over here. And then transactions history. Save. Now I've got transactions history over here. Now we need to create first of all, let's create the button component, the custom button component, and then we'll create this transaction component. All right. Okay, so we've got custom imports. Now we need to do. Sorry, we've got custom button. Why is this import? Okay, let me change it. Custom button. Alright, cool. So first of all, a button needs a touchable opacity, obviously. Alright, touchable opacity, and then we need some props. I'm just gonna go ahead and paste the number of props that we need, and then we've got, of course, default values. By default, the width of the button is going to be 100, the height is going to be 30. So these are just default values. Okay, we will be able to override them by passing these props from the parent, from the component that is displaying this component over here. So these are the props, and we also have the on press as well. All right, so we need to wrap everything in with a touchable opacity. Let me do that. rewrapping everything with a touchable opacity. Now we need a view that is going to be our container. Need a view. Okay, so there's going to be a hell lot of styles over here. Style is going to be equal to, so we will have custom styles that won't change in here, but we also want to pass our own, like, you know, like the color of the text size and all that. So we use these square brackets, and first of all we're gonna apply styles.container, and then we're gonna have our own styles over here. Okay. Alright. Then inside of the view we need a text that will display the text. So it will display this text. By default it's just going to be button. Okay. And again, the text, we need some styles over here. I'm gonna call it color. It's this text color that comes from the props. By default it's going to be white, and then we need font size as well, which is text size. Alright, what else? So let's do styles for the view. The view is going to be the actual button. So width is going to be width. And then the height is going to be height. Then the background color. Then the border radius. Border radius will come from radius, like this. So now I've got the button. So we need to do the on press over here. Okay, let's save this, and let's add some styles for the container. Save. So this will just make sure that the text in the button is right at the center. Okay. Alright, so let's import, let's go ahead and create the transaction component here. So we're done with the button. If you want to see it, let's import it here. Custom button. If you want to see it, here it is. If you save, we've got this button. Just as basic buttons, because we didn't pass anything over here, so all we get is this just simple button. Alright, but we don't need this button here. We'll use it in a separate component that we're going to be building. Okay, so let's save. So let's create the component over here within the home screen, because we're just going to be using it here. I'm going to call it transaction.js. transaction. Okay, so this is the component that we are building now. It's this one over here. If you look at it, the flex direction is row. Okay, so I'm just gonna have this view that will contain this and this, and then another view. We actually don't need even a view. We'll just put a button and then set the justify content to space between. This button will immediately go to the end, and this will be to the left, to the start. Yeah, and then we will have this component. Okay, so now we've got the transaction. We are expecting a transaction and an on press. So this on press so this on press will react when we press the button within the transaction. You know, the detail, that orange button that we have. Yep, that's one. Right. So we need a transaction, one transaction, and then on press here. So pretty much the same thing that we did with categories. The category component expected a category and an on press. All right. So we need to import a few things. Just gonna put them over here. We need colors because we wanna pass, when we're creating the custom button, we wanna pass that orange color. Okay. We need values. You'll see why we need values. We need some values, of course, from values, and then we need that custom button component that we created, because we want to create that little button right at the end. Okay, so let's add some styles. Styles.container. Okay, then we need this view, the view that's on the left, right? Let me just remove this. The view that has the image and the type of spending that you are doing and how much you actually spend. So I'm just gonna give it a style of, not gonna call it container, I'm gonna call it left section. Let me call it left section. And then within the left section, we also have, as you can see, the flex direction of row. Alright, so we've got a view left section, which is this, but if you look at the items within left section, they are in a row. They are not stacked on top of each other, right? So we need to account for that, and then yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Left section, so we need a view for, so the left section will have the image and the text. So we need a view for the image, because you saw that the image is in a view that has a background color. So we need to create that, okay? And the background color will come from our data. If you look at our data transactions, we have a background color as well, okay, and the price as well as the image. The ID is very important, to make sure that you bring in the ID. Okay, go back to transaction. We need an image. All right, and we need to import it from React Native. Okay, and then the source of the image will be transaction.img. Okay, And then this view over here will be we'll have the style of image container, styles dot image container, but we want to pass more than one. All right, so this is what we do. Wanna do this, and then we want to set the background color now to whatever transaction comes, whatever transaction has transaction dot background color. All right, we've got the styles over here. We need the styles for this as well, for the image. Styles dot we just call it image. Okay, so this is the left section. We've got this image view. Now we need a view for our text that will hold our text. So the reason why we need a view is because if we set this to row, then every child in here will be in a row. Okay, so this is one child and this is the second child. So don't mind what's inside of this. Will just look at the outermost elements. We've got two outermost elements over here. We've got a view and this view. Right, so we've got two children. So this view over here will have a text and it will come from transaction.heading. Transaction.heading, and we now using values. We want it to be style equals to values. We want to use the P style. All right, then in here, we need also this one. So here we want to use the H2 style from values, and here we displaying the price, and we need a minus over here because as you can see here, we've got a minus. Okay, so we need a minus as well. What else do we need? And then once we are outside of this left section, we need a button now. So I'm just gonna paste this button with props that are passed, and then I'll explain what's happening. So the width of the button is gonna be 52, the height, this is the radius, and the text that we wanna display is details. The background color now, all right, we want it to be orange. And then when this button is pressed, remember this button has its own on press over here. So when it's pressed, it will trigger this on press here, which is this one, which will trigger in the home screen now. Okay, yep, so this is the button. We are left with the styles now. So I'm gonna bring in the styles and then walk you through them. Alright, so the container, which is the entire thing, the entire component, we set the background color to white. The width should be 100%. It will take the entire width of the screen. And the height, the radius, we want padding. It will push the stuff that's inside. It will prevent it from sticking to the walls of the component, basically, from all sides. Okay, so the flex direction should be row. We spoke about this, and the items should be center. This will center these items vertically within the transaction component, and then of course we need to justify the content using space between. This will put this custom button right at the end. Okay, then we add a margin bottom of 15 and a padding end of 15. because we want to bring the button a bit, like, we don't want it to be way to the end, okay? So we add a padding end of 15. I'll remove this 15 and put 0 for y'all to see what I'm talking about, and then I'll bring it back in. So yeah, we're done with this component. So we can press save now, and then we need to use it in our home screen. So now we need to import transactions. So we're doing this because if you go to data, you see we are exporting categories and transactions. So this is how you need to import from this file. You need to have these curly braces over here. All right, cool. So now I've got this. We need some space again under transaction history, and then we will use a flat list again. Paste it over here. It's no more horizontal, it's now vertical. So this show horizontal scroll indicator should be shows vertical. Okay, and again the extractor, okay, here we're using transactions, not categories. Transactions. Okay, works. Now we need to import transaction from components. Transaction. Transaction. All right, and we need to use transaction now in our flat list. Come back here. Instead of displaying this component, now we need to display the transaction component. And by the way, as you can see now, if we click here, the service, this happens. We see that we clicked service. If we click on savings, we get this. We clicked savings. So you can now do whatever you want to do. Maybe navigate to the electricity screen, maybe navigate to the service screen. All right, so these are very reusable. Okay, let's replace category with transaction now. So passing the transaction, which is this item. Again, whenever you press that button, whenever this custom button is pressed, this function, which is this, will be triggered. And then because this is a component and we are passing this function from here, from index, when this function now gets triggered, we are getting the value. This is where the value is coming from. You see, we pass in transaction.heading. We now get the value, and then we console.warn the value, so it will show here. So let's go ahead and save. Hopefully nothing breaks. Okay, something is missing in the transactions. Alright, so it looks like we made a silly mistake here. We had styles. It should be style, not styles. Okay, now if we hit save, now it looks much better. Okay, so if we click here, why aren't we seeing anything? Oh, that is because in the custom button we did not implement the on press. Okay, did we? On press, save. Now it's working. we pressed on education and we see education. If we click here on transport, we see transport. Yep, so this is it, guys. If you enjoyed this, make sure that you subscribe to this channel because we're going to be posting more of these videos. Yeah, so this one was like for people who are new to React Native, beginner level. So yeah, in the next videos I'm gonna be a bit faster than this, and I see that I wasted a lot of time explaining stuff, writing the style sheets on screen. Yep, so I hope you enjoyed, and subscribe to this channel, like and share and comment below what you think. I will see you in the next video.